New York, the scene for the 1983 American Bowling Congress Masters Tournament. Hello everyone, I'm Pat Scanlon, and Ms. Lou Sports is happy to bring you today's finals of the ABC Masters Tournament. It all began earlier this week at the Niagara Falls International Convention Center. Over 400 bowlers attempted to qualify, 64 advanced, and today 5 men remain competing for a share of a $200,000 purse, the richest purse in pro bowling. $40,000 will go to today's winner. It should be a great final, so stay with us for the 33rd Annual ABC Masters Tournament.
The following is a feature presentation of Television Sports USA, the Wislowski Television Network. From the International Convention Center in Niagara Falls, New York, Fram Autolite present the finals of the 33rd Annual American Bowling Congress Masters Tournament. The 1983 ABC Masters is brought to you by Fram, who make the oil and air filters that help keep your car running, and by Autolite, who make the spark plug with a wide heat range.
Looking forward to covering the finals of the 1983 American Bowling Congress Masters Tournament. Howard, without a doubt, with $200,000 in prize money, this is the big one, the big tournament in bowling this year in America.
And a good first match, too. Ernie Schlagel, the colorfully attired, if not sometimes outrageous, against Les Schisler, who hasn't been on television in 7 years. The winner meets Earl Anthony, who had a 1,003 four-game set, including a 290 game. That winner will then meet Mike Lastowksi, the school teacher from Havre de Grace, Maryland, who's making his first tournament appearance this week. And then, of course, the tournament leader, Pete Weber, who averaged over 216, the son of the great Hall of Famer, Dick Weber, awaits that winner.
Well, at the International Convention Center, Niagara Falls, a big crowd is assembled. One of the best bowling audiences ever to watch a live event. And, of course, we invite you, wherever you're watching around the United States, to enjoy this action of the American Bowling Congress Masters. Coming right up.
The traditional handshake before the start of the first match between Ernie Schlagel and this man, 53-year-old Les Schisler. We show you highlights of this opening match.
Les Schisler has been off the tour for 6 years, hasn't been on television in 7. Last time was in Milwaukee, 1976. Here he is in the first frame.
And leaving that 10-pin. Quite a note here, Howard. Les Schisler rolled one of bowling's most dramatic games ever when he strung 12 strikes for a 300 in the classic team event in the 1967 American Bowling Congress Tournament. Wow, that was the first 300 in team play in ABC tournament history.
Les would have to be considered the underdog in this match. But in this game of bowling, as you well know, anything can and does happen.
Ernie Schlagel in the first frame after Schisler spared. Ernie running it out, and he leaves the 10.
Well, little back at you.
And these are highlights of our first match, the first of 4 matches in the televised finals of the American Bowling Congress Masters.
Ernie Schlagel a little conservatively dressed today for the tournament TV finals.
That's right. As we jump to the 4th frame, he had an open in the 3rd, and he strikes in the 4th.
Right through. Solid hit.
Now Schisler led by 12 pins heading into the 4th.
Little back at you. At this point, through 4, Les Schisler is still 12 pins in front.
And there you see the story on this beautiful, huge scoreboard in front of this large crowd in the International Convention Center in Niagara Falls. Now, the 5th frame, Schisler coming off a strike. Oh, he's outside the pocket there, Howard.
Missed the head pin completely. That shows the amateur bowlers that it can happen even to the pros.
And on the 1-2-4-8, the veteran, Les Schisler, out of Denver, Colorado, converts the spare. Now we see Schlagel in the 5th, coming off a strike. He's trailing.
A little bit high, shaky 7-pin. That's a 9 and a shake.
And Schlagel going for a spare. Fine opening match as Schisler continues to lead. And now we are going to jump ahead to the climactic 10th frame as we pick up the action. Schlagel is on a double, and he is bowling his first ball in the 10th.
He likes it.
Now, Howard,
got the good pin action.
If he strikes out, he'll force Schisler to double. And here he struck on the 2nd ball. Now we see his final ball of this match.
Right. He's on a 4-bagger at this point. Needs this one to force Les Schisler to double in the 10th. Buried.
We all know bowling's a great participant sport. This is proof it also can be a great spectator sport. Now watch this man, Les Schisler, 53 years old, needing a double to eliminate Ernie Schlegel in the opening match of the Masters Finals.
Got a strike up in the 9th as he throws here in the 10th frame. Tripped the 4-pin out of there, got a little help. That gives him a double. And there's nothing that Ernie Schlegel can do, a game of total offense.
Now Schisler needs this strike if he's going to win.
No, this and 6.
Right. He has to have this strike, his second ball in the 10th. And I would think that he might be, as you point out, maybe the underdog, but certainly the sentimental favorite.
Ernie Schlegel finished 214. Schisler needs this strike.
Oh, no doubt about that one.
No question, no doubt in anyone's mind. And now, as they say, he has to just stay off the foul line. Needs 6 pins for the win.
What a dramatic conclusion to this opening match as we
check the replay. And you can see, buried.
What a great shot.
Never took any prisoners. All right, here he is. Last ball, he needs at least 6 to stay off the foul line. Down the middle, no problem. Got it on the Brooklyn side.
And so Les Schisler striking out in the 9th and the 10th. Ernie Schlegel struck from the 8th through the 10th, 5 in a row, but Schisler with 4 in a row in the 9th and 10th wins the opening match 219 to 214. And now in the second match, it is Schisler against the great Earl Anthony.
Mr. Bowling, first $1 million and only $1 million winner on tour. He got a bit of a break and it tripped it out of the gutter, knocks over the 4-pin and a strike, and Les is holding his head. He got a break in the first frame.
Again, these are highlights of the first 2 matches. Opening match, Les Schisler eliminated Ernie Schlegel 219 to 214. Now we're down to the second match, the great Earl Anthony, reigning bowler of the year, and a great chance to win it in 1983. 5 times National Bowler of the Year. The superstar left-hander with a strike to match Schisler in the first frame.
Powerful ball for Earl Anthony.
So Anthony with so many titles. Les Schisler, who had quite a career of his own while on tour, and now making a gallant comeback in the 1983 Masters at Niagara Falls. In the second frame, oh my goodness, the 6-7 split.
Tough spare to make, particularly under the pressure, with Earl Anthony already having recorded a double in the first and second.
These are highlights of these opening 2 matches, showing this great old pro, Les Schisler.
Well, he was the underdog in the first match with Ernie Schlegel. He's certainly the underdog here against Earl Anthony. Very tough conversion of a 6-7 spare.
Oh!
Beauty. Beauty.
And the crowd reaction to this veteran shot. And he has done so much to gain their favor early in these finals, Howard Davis.
Well, he's got to go cross alley, slide the 6 across the lane. Stays out of the channel, just gets a piece, and that's what you have to do. Knocks over the 7, and a wonderful spare on the second frame for Les Schisler.
Now, a little later, Anthony struck in the second for a double, and we pick him up in the third as he tries for a turkey.
Great concentration by a great champion. Such an easy release.
Oh, he does make it look easy, but there, Howard, he was outside the pocket and left the 1-3.
You'll never see Earl Anthony do that twice in a game. I won't say never. Rarely will you see Earl Anthony do that.
Miss the pocket.
Yeah, it's rare.
So the Earl, great gentleman, used to have a crew cut, of course, many, many years ago, and so many championships. This year he won the PBA National Championship again. There, a spare in the third. And now we jump ahead to late in the match. Anthony at this point has a lead of 16 pins, and here's Earl in the 7th frame.
A little bit high on the hit, leaves a 10-pin, almost left a 6-10.
So Anthony in command after some early heroics by Schisler, who has really done more than anyone would ever expect that he would do in this championship. Anthony now with a good lead.
Well, here it is on the replay. You'll see Earl's shot coming up a little bit high, almost a nosedive. Gets a little bit of pin action out of the channel, kicks out the 6-pin. The 10 is still standing.
Now Anthony getting that spare in the 7th. The winner of this match to take on an unknown Mike Lastowski, a school teacher out of Maryland, and we'll talk about him as we get into that next match when we go to our complete match coverage. These are highlights. You saw Anthony, or you saw Schisler rather, eliminate Ernie Schlegel 219 to 214. And here now, Earl Anthony.
Anthony, a winner of this tournament, the ABC Masters back in 1977, along with a number of other titles.
And Earl in the 8th frame comes up with a strike. Schisler had spared in his 7th frame. And here is Schisler coming up with a 9 count in the bottom of the 8th. So Schisler gamely hanging on, but trailing by a goodly amount of over 25 pins at this point in the match, and it's getting late.
It's 27 to be exact, Dwayne, at this point.
So here's Schisler going after that 10 pin in the 8th frame, and the right-hander from Denver, the veteran, converting on the 10.
Well, I believe that Les would have to think of himself at this point very fortunate to be this far into the tournament, although at this point you see he trails by 17.
Now Schisler in the 9th. Schisler coming off a spare in the 8th frame. Showing 150 through the 8th. Trying for a strike here in the 9th. Oh, a solid hit, but leaving the 7th.
Again, a little bit high, leaving the 7 pin, kicking the 4 out of there. And it was almost a must strike, if not a must strike at this point for Les Schisler.
Yes, it certainly appears now that Earl Anthony will be the man to move on in the Masters. Anthony already has won the Masters once in his illustrious career.
1977.
And Schisler getting the conversion here in the 9th frame, but now Anthony going for a double in his half of the 9th, as Earl seems well on his way to a game of over 200 in his initial match here in these finals of the 1983 American Bowling Congress Masters. You see that big crowd back there, Howard, in Niagara Falls. What a turnout for a bowling championship.
And you see the turnouts all over the country are bigger now than they've ever been before. Bowling is back on the beam where it was, I'll say, maybe 10, 12 years ago.
And a lot of thanks to the American Bowling Congress for the boom of the 80s in this great sport, as Anthony doubles in the 8th and the 9th, and that wraps it up. Earl Anthony will go on now to take on the next contestant, Lastowski.
Now here you see a thin hit, a lot of pin action, a lot of lumber still on the line, and Earl's pretty happy with the strike. Not solid, but the X is still up on the board.
Okay, now we watch Anthony on his first ball of the 10th frame. He's already wrapped up this victory over Les Schisler.
And all he had to do really was stay off the foul line. Dwayne leaves the 10 pin.
And so it'll be Anthony, the best known professional in the country, against the least known professional in these finals, Mike Lastowski. The unknown against the great famous professional Earl Anthony. And the Earl with his second ball as he looks down at the foul line and converts the 10 pin here in the 10th frame. So Earl will have one more shot, and if he strikes, it'll be a 217. We're looking back at action now, and we'll have the entire match coming up between Anthony and Mike Lastowski next.
Earl's had 11 sanctioned 300 games, countless titles, countless amounts of money. Only $1 million winner on the PBA Tour.
Both of these gentlemen out of the West. Anthony born in the state of Washington, leaving the 7 pin on his last ball. Anthony now runs a bowling establishment in Dublin, California. He shot 216 and sits down as Les Schisler comes up on his final effort, the final frame for him in this much remembered 1983 Masters for the man from Colorado, on the nose and the baby split.
3-10 split for Les Schisler, knowing that it's all over for him, but has to feel pretty good about his showing this week at the ABC Masters. Good showing.
Yeah, how many men in their 50s have done as well in the history of this event as Schisler picking up the 3, leaving the 10, and winding up with 177. Anthony versus Mike Lastowski next. We'll be right back. Handshake between Earl Anthony and Mike Lastowski as we start the 3rd match of the Masters finals. It'll be this match and then the championship match as Fram Autolite presents from the International Convention Center in Niagara Falls, New York, the 33rd annual American Bowling Congress Masters Tournament, the tournament in 1983 in men's professional bowling. Oh, a high hit for Mike Lastowski, the school teacher from the state of Maryland, and he left the 3-6-10.
Going right through the nose. Lastowski has to be a little bit nervous. You bowl against Earl Anthony, it's expected. Lastowski has not bowled on the tour this year. Last time he cashed a check was at this very tournament a year ago.
Earl Anthony in his 40s, and this man, 38 years old, Mike Lastowski. He's a regional pro, and as we mentioned, a school teacher out of the state of Maryland. So Lastowski spares in the first frame. Now we look at Anthony trying for his second Masters championship. The winner to play Pete Weber, 20 years old, the son of Dick Weber and tournament leader. Now to review, Marshall Holman, $7,600. He was our alternate in 6th place. Ernie Schlagel, 5th place. As Anthony shoots in the first and strikes.
Trips out the 6-pin and a good start for Earl Anthony.
As we look at Lastowski, Schlagel, $10,500 for 5th place. Les Schisler, 4th place, $14,500. And Howard David, we're down to 3 players, one of whom will win $40,500, the biggest pro first prize ever in the sport of bowling.
Earl, the first man to win 30 PBA titles, currently holds 39 championships. Quite a record.
Trying for a double here, and that's solid 7-pin.
Standing up and glaring him in the eye.
Anthony, of course, a tremendous competitor. Always peaks for the big ones, and there's none bigger than the American Bowling Congress Masters Tournament. Great champions over the years. Only 3 men have won this championship twice. Anthony trying to become a 4th.
Cross alley for the 7-pin for Earl Anthony.
And he picks up the spare. It was Dick Hoover, the first 2-time winner, back-to-back in 1956 and 1957. And then another 2-time winner was Billy Golombiewski in 1960 and 1962, and Billy Whaleu won back-to-back Masters in 1964 and 1965. And now another look at the school teacher from Maryland, Mike Lastowski, running it out and leaving that 10-pin. Lastowski bowls only regional events. He never has finished higher than 5th in a regional event. In fact, he had bowled only once in 18 months prior to this tournament in any kind of a pro event. So what an upset. A young fellow like this in his late 30s, not that young. Certainly the bowler's getting younger and younger. But to get this far, an unknown.
School teachers do well, Dwayne, in recreational sports. Lastowski, Steve Miserak, the professional billiard player, a reformed school teacher, not reformed school, but a reformed school teacher.
Yes.
Lastowski trailing by 1 through 2 frames.
This fellow, Howard, teaches the 6th, 7th, and 8th grades, a social studies teacher at the Cherry Hill Middle School in Elkton, Maryland. So I'm sure they're watching this telecast are a number of youngsters who really are rooting for their teacher, Mr. Lastowski. And he's outside the pocket there and left the 1-2-8.
Missing the head pin entirely. He's not too happy with himself at this point. You can't get too far down to a player of Earl Anthony's caliber. It's a constant uphill struggle.
Lastowski 36 pins in the 2nd, trying for a spare here in the 3rd. Anthony 20 pins in the 1st. He has a spare up in the 2nd. And there you see I love this view, this right on the bowling lane as Lastowski goes for this 3-pin spare and covers it as the textbook would indicate you should.
Perfect cover.
Good spare. Lastowski may be a little intimidated. Who wouldn't be? This fellow, Lastowski's watched the great Earl over the years on television, I'm sure. And obviously, this is quite a challenge for him as Anthony comes up in the 3rd frame off a spare in the 2nd.
5-time bowler of the year.
And over 40 Pro Bowlers Association tournament titles, including the PBA National this year. And the Earl leaving the big 4. And you just don't convert this one, the 4, 6, 7, 10.
You don't try at this stage of the match. You're looking for pin count. Go for the 2.
So Anthony 36 pins in the 2nd. And here, barring a miracle, he'll be open in the 3rd. And the Earl going for the 4-7, leaving the 6-10. So the first break of this match goes against the great one from originally the state of Washington, more currently Dublin, California. Anthony now trails by 12.
Doesn't take long to get right back into the match. They're in the 4th frame here. Total concentration by Mike Lastowski.
He has 3 straight spares. Nary a strike against Anthony. He's got a 12-pin lead.
Well, he got a little bit of a break. Earl came up high in the 3rd frame. Left the double pinochle. At least we used to call it that in the old days.
All right, in the 4th for Anthony. Dwayne Dow and Howard David on the call of the ABC Masters. And a good strike, vintage Earl Anthony there.
Well, that's just to let Lastowski know that Earl's still around. So he's got to come back just to maintain the 12-pin advantage.
So it is Anthony 44 pins in the 3rd, strike up in the 4th. Lastowski 36 in the 2nd, spare up in the 3rd. And Lastowski rolling in the 4th with a lead of 12 pins. Going to his knees and picking it up. So Lastowski with his first strike of the match.
Well, you get a little bit loose. It's like a football player. As you look at it on the replay, a football player waits for that first hit in a ball game, and then everything gets loose after that.
Now, you might be watching this young man or this fellow and say, hey, where's he been? Well, he's been bowling for 25 years. But he's been bowling league. He's been out of the limelight, and he has peaked in this tournament.
And he's ahead by 12 at this point as Lastowski comes up in the 5th frame.
So here's Mike trying for a double. Oh, yes.
Yes, stripped the 4-pin out of there. A little high hit. Got a little action out of the channel. And a double from Mike Lastowski, and a big double at that.
So what a match unfolding here as this unknown from the state of Maryland taking command against the reigning superstar of the game.
Well, you know, it's almost like a feeling of I've got nothing to lose. I'll go out and do as best I can. If it's good enough, fine. If it's not, nobody expected me to be this far anyway.
Anthony in the tournament received his biggest scare from Tita Simiz, the veteran from Fairfield, New Jersey, as Anthony beat Simiz by 10 pins, 897 to 887 in their 4-game match. And there is Anthony coming
with a
up
bucket.
a little late.
Got the bucket here in the 5th frame.
And the Earl obviously not happy with the way he's performing right now, as we're in the middle of this match between Anthony and Mike Lastowski. Now, Pete Weber is waiting to play the winner of this one for the championship. And you see the crowd. This is an arena setting at Niagara Falls, not a bowling center setting, an arena setting. And the noise a little different as you hear the ball rumbling down the lane.
Very tough cover and professional cover, obviously, by Earl.
There he is, one of the greats, Dick Weber.
They used to call him the Golden Arm. I believe they still do. He was murder.
I think he might have a rooting interest in the championship match.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of a vested interest, absolutely. No question about it. Earl has won over $100,000 already in 1982. I don't believe anybody in the game has had more $100,000 plus seasons than this man.
Well, with Lastowski working at a double, Anthony trying to strike here in the 6th after a spare in the 5th. No!
Couldn't slide the 5-pin over to take out the 10. Got a little bit of action, not much.
And so, Earl Anthony trying for a spare here. We might salute the new members of the American Bowling Congress Hall of Fame. Jim Stefanich of Joliet, Illinois, a great name from the past in bowling. Les Zykes, one of the finest people in sports out of Palatine, Illinois, and Steve Cruchon of Detroit.
Conversion of the 10-pin by Earl Anthony as he spares in the 6th frame. We'll be back with the conclusion of the match in a moment.
Now we're back with Mike Lastowski ready to bowl the 6th frame and leading the great Earl Anthony by 22 pins. And Howard, I think we should mention this, that bowling ball in this man's hands, the only ball he has used for this entire tournament. Unbelievable in this day and age.
I've only used one ball for 16 years. That hadn't helped me any.
Well, maybe that'll become the rage now. Actually, 2 other recent Masters champions, Randy Lightfoot and Joe Berardi, went all the way from qualifying through match play in the televised finals with 1 ball, as we see the 3rd consecutive strike for Lastowski as he goes way up on Anthony.
Got a little bit of help there from the 4-pin, trips out the 7, and a 3-bagger from Mike Lastowski.
And Lastowski going for 4 in a row here in the 7th. A little, well, he left the 2, 4, 5,
8.
And the 8 is back there also. Hey, got that X-ray vision.
Little bucket.
So Lastowski Now, from time to time, we'll mention the champions in the regular division of the American Bowling Congress National Championships Tournament. Thousands of league bowlers bowling on these same lanes over a 3-month period before this Masters competition.
With the conversion, which he makes, and a 29-pin lead for Mike Lastowski as Earl Anthony comes up in the 7th.
Yes, a good thing is that these pros bowling on these lanes where just league bowlers of all different averages were eligible to bowl for a specified entry fee. Men league bowlers in the booster and the regular division, team, doubles, and singles. And some great champions.
Quite a tournament. Over 35,000 participants when they started. The team champion was Doug Himes Pro Shop out of Niagara Falls.
And Fran Bax rolled a big 833 series with that Doug Himes Pro Shop team. Anthony, oh, you see, he didn't like that, Howard. He left the 1-3 and he was outside the pocket.
That's the second time since this televised finals that Earl has missed the head pin completely, leaving the 1-3.
Anthony trails by 31 pins. He is 101 through the 6th, hoping for a spare in the 7th. Mike Lastowski 132 in the 6th and a spare up in the 7th, and the veteran Dick Weber, along with his lovely wife Juanita. Haven't seen her in a number of years, looking just great. And there's Anthony with the spare. Earl and I enjoyed a little commentary work in Reno at the Miller tournament this year. Did a good job on the mic, Howard.
As long as you didn't take your talent fee and go to the tables.
He was good on the air. He really was, and he enjoyed it.
Well, it's not surprising. His
Great
commentary is as smooth as that left-handed stroke.
Yes. And so Anthony coming off a spare in the 7th frame, trailing by 31 pins, needing a rally starting right here in the 8th. And in front of this big crowd of over 2,000 fans in Niagara Falls at the International Convention Center, Anthony gets a strike.
Well, and a must strike it was too, Dwayne. With a strike here, Lastowski will remain 31 pins up.
And in that red coat, you know he's an American Bowling Congress official. And Lastowski now bowling in the 8th frame. The 1984 American Bowling Congress National Championships Tournament will be in the Reno Sparks Convention Center in Reno, Nevada. And look at that strike for Lastowski, who is not letting up against Anthony and continues to lead by 31.
And we go back, as you look at it on the replay, we go back to the 3rd frame. We said he had 3 spares in a row. He needed to get it going, and he is getting it going. Almost a little bit high. There comes the 4, tripping out the 7. And a strike in the 8th for Lastowski to maintain that 31-pin lead.
Hey, Chicago and Tony Cariello won the all events at the American Bowling Congress National Championships Tournament this year by 1 pin. As we look at Lastowski here in the Masters in the 9th frame.
He's got it going, Dwayne. He's got it going now. Double through the 8th and 9th. And this forces Earl to do one thing, and that's strike.
So here is this young man, Mike Lastowski, really making some bowling history. Nobody really around the nation has heard of him.
And no pins left on the deck. Clean double.
Now Anthony, knowing he's in deep trouble here in the 9th in his quest for his 2nd Masters Championship. Little body English.
Double for double. So now we separate the men from the boys. It comes down to the 10th frame. As you look at it again on the replay,
and if the Earl's going to have any chance at all, he has to double here in the 10th.
Well, it goes through the head pin, trips out the 5, ball driving right through the heart of the pocket. And a good double for Earl Anthony, a must double.
So he is going to have to at least string a 4-bagger here to have any chance at all of winning this match against the upstart Mike Lastowski. Anthony, first ball, 10th frame.
Got them all. Triple for Earl Anthony. Here's a very important ball here.
So Anthony now relying on all his savvy and his great talent. Lastowski looking down.
Look at the knee bend. Gets down real low. Smooth delivery. Heart of the pocket. There goes the 5 right through.
It looks so easy.
Anything this man does looks easy.
Anthony, of course, had a heart attack several years ago, made a remarkable comeback, and has won tournaments since his physical problem. Now in good shape physically and coming up leaving that 2-pin.
Well, we're right through the head pin, leaves the 2 standing, and now the ball is in Lastowski's court.
Now Lastowski is really in great shape to win this match and go on to play 20-year-old Pete Weber for the Masters Championship. We've had a lot of age differential throughout these finals, and if it's Lastowski and Weber, it'll be quite an age differential, as it would have been had Anthony gone on against Weber. A fellow young enough to be Anthony's son, Earl, winds up with an even 200. And now Lastowski in great shape to win.
Needs a couple of pins, that's all. Couple of pins on the first ball and they can kiss it goodbye. He's looking to throw this down the heart of the lane. Even if he leaves a split, as long as he gets 5 or 6 pins, he's home free.
The social studies teacher from Cherry Hill Middle School in Elkton, Maryland. And he's
got it on the Brooklyn. Got it on the Brooklyn. It doesn't matter how you get it as long as you get it. That locks the door.
And so for Lastowski, he now has 6 strikes in this match. He started as if he were intimidated by Anthony with 3 spares, but then he turkeyed. And now he is turkeyed again as we watch the replay, Howard.
Well, I think the key to the match was the 3rd frame when Earl had the double pinochle in the 3rd. Obviously, he got 2, and right there it gave Lastowski a feeling of, I'm not striking and I'm still ahead. And from that point on, Mike had a 3-bagger separated by a spare, and then another 3-bagger here, a 4-bagger.
And he's carrying the pins, isn't he? Every ball, whether it's in the pocket, whether it's Brooklyn, whether it's high, he's there. You're beginning to think this might be his tournament, but he has a very tough challenge ahead in young Pete Weber, one of the great young kid stars, if you could call someone 20 years old a kid on this tour.
Mike with a short backswing and drives it right through the heart. He just wanted to let you know that the 2 Brooklyn hits were an accident. That one was for real, and he finishes with a beautiful 242. And beats the great Earl Anthony.
And so you see Susie Anthony, Earl's wife. Earl goes off, but he winds up $20,500 richer for 3rd place in the 1983 Masters. And now, Howard David, let's go back to a great highlight earlier in these match play finals of the Masters. This is Tita Simiz in the 10th frame. That was his 10th strike in a row against Billy Young Jr. Simiz trying to become only the 14th man to fire a 300 game in Masters history, trying for that 14th Masters 300 of all time, and he starts to run them out here. 2nd ball, 10th frame. And now we get down to the final shot as Simiz in a bid for a 300. Look at that row of X's, Howard. Every bowler's dream.
Trying to become the lone man of the tournament to throw 300, and he accomplishes that feat.
Yes, the 14th in Masters history. Simiz later was eliminated by Earl Anthony. Still, he earned $5,700, almost double his previous overall Masters winnings down through the years. Tita Simiz, a 300 game. And we'll be back. The championship match is next. We look at Pete Weber, who now bowls Mike Lastowski for the 1983 American Bowling Congress Masters Championship.
2nd time these 2 are meeting, Dwayne. As you look at Pete Weber, they met in the final round of the 4-game match play, with Pete Weber coming out on top, 838 to 798. Big swinging.
Weber won at Wislowksi, Connecticut, and in Portland, Oregon on the PBA Tour. And as we watch, you see that rocking 9-pin. He almost caught a strike there.
The 4-pin almost gave him some help there, tripping out the 9. Got 9 in a shake.
Pete Weber, son of the great Dick Weber. But if you talk to Dick, he'll say, hey, this kid does his own thing. He doesn't try to emulate his old man. No way. And so Pete comes up with a 9-pin spare.
It looks like he has the finish of his father. That little foot kick at the end.
And now Lastowski.
And now all he needs is the record of his dad.
Yes. Lastowski, if he wins this match and the championship, would double his annual earnings as a junior high school teacher in Maryland.
Which just goes to show you one thing. Pays to be a pro bowler.
Well, certainly in this tournament to peak for this big money. And he's high, and whoa! Backing down is the 4-pin, falling forward.
Got it a little bit from behind, a little bit of a break. And let's face it, you can be good and you can be a pro. And if you get a little bit of luck, you go a little further.
Hey, how about Ricky Kendrick of Springfield, Illinois?
Yeah,
Yes.
He won the singles in the 80th Annual American Bowling Congress Tournament of Champions, shooting .735, one of the lowest figures in a final.
And that's a tremendous series, beating out thousands of bowlers in the National Championships Tournament of the American Bowling Congress on these lanes. Now, in the championship match of the Masters, Lastowski trying for a double, and he doubles up in the second frame.
You know, Lastowski, Dwayne, has now thrown 7 straight. He finished up with 5 in a row against Earl Anthony, and he started out with 2 here in the final.
And so Pete Weber, the tournament leader, who really was confident after beating Lastowski in the final match of the match play before the televised finals. Weber said, I own this tournament. This is mine. Let's see if he's right. Second frame for Weber. 0-7 count.
Got a light hit, leaves the 2-4-5.
And so Weber will try to convert this spare. The Masters Championship. So many, you know, Steve Nagy tried to win this many, many years and never did. Always wanted it badly. And finally in Rochester, New York, when he was double eliminated in 1956, he took his bowling ball and threw it in the river that goes alongside the building in Rochester.
Probably took a page out of Tommy Bolt's golf magazine. Throw your clubs in the river when things aren't going right.
And he had a lot of notoriety back in 1956, as I well remember as a youngster in Rochester growing up. All right, a close look. Boy, this is a game that wears down the hands after so many games. And you see Pete Weber coming up with a strike in the third to go 37 pins in the second and a strike in the third. And now Lastowski on a double. Perfect after 2 frames.
13-pin leader at this point. Also in the other competition in the American Bowling Congress Tournament of Champions in the doubles, Rick McCarty and Tony Loicano of Detroit, Michigan won that event.
This field 481 in the Masters. These are the 2 survivors in the bucket for Lastowski, the 2-4-5-8.
That cuts the margin down just a bit.
Lastowski 5 feet 11 inches tall. No one ever heard of this fellow nationally, even regionally. He had not performed to any degree. He tried the tour in 1974-75. His best finish, Howard, was 22nd in Buffalo, so he got off the tour. But here, this tournament, the Masters, with the richest prize money of them all. And Lastowski peaking as he comes up with that spare and now comes back up in the 4th frame. Lastowski right now in the 4th. Coming in light, shaking, and a strike for Lastowski in the 4th frame. And so he strikes in 3 of the first 4 frames against Pete Weber.
Here you get a look at it on the replay. See the good arm swing, the good extension by Lastowski. A little bit light on the hit, good pin action, a few pins still on the deck, but they're all down.
All right, this match very, very close right now.
Well, that's double here for Pete Weber. It put him up by 1 pin.
So let's see if Weber can come up with a strike that he needs here to take the lead. And he did.
Bullseye. Very strong. Very, very strong. Weber beat the defending champion Joe Berardi earlier. As a matter of fact, he gave Berardi his first loss in the tournament, 855 to 823. Berardi eventually finished 11th. Lost to Earl Anthony, 877 to 823.
So Weber going for 3 in a row, trying for that turkey here in the 5th frame of the championship match of the Masters. And as we look at his dad, Dick Weber, and we
leaves a 2-pin.
Come up with a 9-pin count for Pete. And going after that single pin and converting the 2 in the 5th frame. So Pete Weber, 86 pins in the 4th, spare up in the 5th. Mike Lastowski has 66 pins in the 3rd, strike up in the 4th. Lastowski bowling in the 5th.
One final mention of some of the other winners in the ABC Tournament of Champions, the Team All Events Kender Corporation of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Some of the greatest bowlers in the world came out of Milwaukee.
Oh, that's a great team. They've done very well over the years. And there, the 4-pin for Lastowski.
Interesting now with a conversion by Lastowski. This match is dead even. As you look at it again, a little bit high, almost went through the nose, got away with it, leaves the 4-pin. Not happy with the result, but it could have been worse.
And so now Lastowski going for the spare that would tie this match. And there it is. They are tied, each player with 86 pins through the fourth and a spare in the fifth.
Pete Weber with just total concentration, knowing what he has to do. He can't worry what the other guy's doing.
Now in the sixth frame for Lastowski, as he'll try to apply a little pressure on the man who is 18 years younger than he. And he did.
Strong ball, Dwayne, strong ball. So Lastowski strikes in the sixth. We'll be back for the conclusion in a moment.
And so we go to the sixth frame. Pete Weber on a spare, trying to keep the match tied. And no, look what happened. The 6-7 railroad for Weber. Oh boy. So Pete falls behind by 2 pins and now might fall behind by even more with this split.
And Dad was watching, and he knows that that was a very crucial. This is a very crucial split.
Pete trying to convert it. Went for it, of course. Not just going for the wood there. Trying to convert the split. Another look at the attempt.
Pete Weber just pitched it out there too far. And now he's in a really difficult position.
He sure is. 112 and open through the sixth. And trailing by 24 pins as he comes in light and leaves the bucket. And Weber now is going to need a rally here.
Well, the door is open, Dwayne. There's no doubt about it, and here's why. Try to overcompensate a little bit. Last time he went through the nose. This time he comes in too light. Slides the head pin by the bucket, kicks out the 7, but the 4 is still standing. Good conversion.
Right. Weber converting the bucket here in the 7th frame. And so Lastowski with a chance to really put down the hammer now. There's the man from Havre de Grace, Maryland, on a strike. He has 4 strikes in this match in 6 frames, and he leaves the 4-7 but stays out of trouble.
Yeah, went through the nose, left the 4-7 as you mentioned. With a spare here, he goes up 14.
So can this man, you know, if you'd asked 100 bowling fans who is Mike Lastowski before this tournament, I don't think anybody could have told you. But now he's going to have his face on the cover probably of all the bowling publications, including the Bowling Magazine, published by the American Bowling Congress. And there the spare for Lastowski. 126 in the 6th and a spare up in the 7th for Lastowski. Weber 112 in the 6th and a spare up in the 7th. Lastowski leading by 14 pins. Bowling the 8th frame as we come down to the wire in this richest of all tournaments for the pros. And there the 4-pin.
Got a lot of action there. Fortunately, just the 1 pin. You would think that the man who had just come off beating Earl Anthony with a 242 would be a little bit more relaxed, but keep in mind they're playing for over $40,000 in first prize money. A lot of pressure and a good conversion.
Yes, he picks it up. Les Schisler beat Ernie Schlegel 219 to 214. Then in the second match, Earl Anthony eliminated Schisler 216 to 177. Anthony was eliminated by Lastowski 242 to 200. And here is Pete Weber leaving the 2-pin. Weber goes on to convert this 2-pin and also scores another spare in the 9th as we pick up Lastowski bowling in the 9th frame. He's high. Oh, and he does what Weber did earlier, leaving the 6-7. This makes it a match going into the 10th frame, well, and brings Weber back into it.
Pete Weber opened up the door, and Lastowski just kept it open.
So now we have a very, very close match, just a few pins apart, and either man can win it as we will go into the 10th frame. And a nice attempt, but with that open frame by Lastowski, we have a very, very close match as we approach the 10th frame, and Lastowski striking first ball in the 10th. Lastowski with the strike to start the 10th, and a lead right now of just a couple of pins as we're in the 10th frame.
Strike here and 8, and it's all over. Big ball. This is for all the cookies.
And he got it.
There's nothing Pete Weber can do about it. As you look at it on the replay, Lastowski on a strike, needing a double, down on his knees, praying for it. He's got it.
He needs 8 to win. Lastowski wins the Masters 202 to 189. Pat Scanlon talks to him next.
Dwayne, a little presentation to make right now. Ted Graham, the New York zone manager for Fram Auto Light. Of course, the happy winner, Mike Lastowski, and the ABC Executive Secretary Treasurer, Roger Tessman.
I want to present this check, and this check is to be used for the building fund for the Bowling Hall of Fame and Museum, and it's presented on behalf of Fram Auto Light and Mike, our winner. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ted, thank you. And Mike, our congratulations to you. You can be sure that this check is very timely. The Hall of Fame project is going to be a reality very shortly. The Bowlers of America thank Fram, and they thank you, Mike, for a very enjoyable week.
Thank you.
From the International Convention Center in Niagara Falls, New York, this has been the 33rd Annual American Bowling Congress Masters Tournament. This program has been brought to you by Fram Oil and Air Filters and by Autolite Spark Plugs. Fram and Autolite are Bendix companies. This program was developed and produced in association with SFM Entertainment, a division of SFM Media Corporation. This has been a feature presentation of Television Sports USA, the Wislowski Television Network.